Starfield has come and gone, and next is the Elder Scrolls 6. We still have a little ways to go until then, so it gives us some time to take a look at previous games we all love and enjoyed playing. Skyrim is over 13 years old now, and it is safe to say that it is one of the greatest games of all time. We have played through it countless times, and that means there have been many Dragonborns, a lot of cheese wheels eaten, sweet rolls stolen, and so much more. Skyrim is just one of those games that just refuse to go down, and for good reason. The community for the game is still very huge and active, and it will likely be like this till the next Elder Scrolls game is released. But there's still that age-old question that we all have to ask, whether Skyrim is still worth playing in 2025. And what is up guys, Andrew from the Denmen here, and today I want to look back at Skyrim and answer the question that is on everybody's mind, whether it is still worth playing. Short answer is always, but that's not why you clicked on this video. You wanted to know anything you haven't seen, done, or explored, and that is why we are here today. Newcomers and veterans alike will always find something new to do, and the game is over 13 years old now. So with that being said, we have a lot to go over, so get comfy, grab that bottle of Hunting Brew Mead, and let's answer that question, is Skyrim still worth playing in 2025? Skyrim is a very large and expansive world with plenty of secrets to find and quests to complete. The world of the Elder Scrolls V is set in one of fantasy and akin to what you would find in medieval stories. Don't let that statement fool you and make it seem like it is a very shallow game with no good lore to dig into, because that is not the case at all. In the world of the Elder Scrolls, we have evil gods who try to take over the world, reptilian and feline humanoids, and trees that can communicate with each other. The world that Bethesda has created is, to say the least, very interesting. If you dig deep enough into in-game books and conversations with NPCs, you can find out so much about the world of the Elder Scrolls, and you will become invested with the story that Bethesda is trying to tell. Tamriel is the continent where all of the Elder Scrolls games have taken place so far. There's Akavir to the east, which is home to a lot of unique humanoids. I won't go too in depth with this, but I made a video about all of the races of Akavir, so if you missed that, link will be in the description box below. The continent of Tamriel is home to a lot of different species of people. These include the Altmer of Somerset, the Bosmer of Valenwood, the Khajiit of Elsewhere. From the region of Blackmarsh we have the Argonians, the Dunmer of Morwen, the Nords of Skyrim. From Cyrodiil we have the Imperials, the Bretons of High Rock, the Redguards of Hammerfell, and the free roaming orcs. Each has their own unique set of attributes and skills tied to them, like the Altmer are adept in magic-based abilities, and the Redguards are well known for their one-handed skills. All of these different traits give each race an identity that is distinct from one another. There are 10 different races to choose from in Skyrim, so that gives way to plenty of different gameplay variations. When starting each playthrough, you will take each of the distinct abilities that they have into consideration and will make you want to start a new character just to see the difference it is to play with another person. Even before you customize your player and give them a name, Bethesda throws you into the world of Elder Scrolls in one of the ways they only know how, by being a prisoner. Just from the opening sequence, you can start to figure out what the story of Skyrim is going to look like. The moment you wake up in a haze in a cart with your hands binded, you enter one of the most innovative and fantasy worlds games has ever seen. The story of Skyrim is shown through the beginning pretty well, with Ralof describing the civil war that has plagued the land for some time now, and the leader of the rebellion, Mouth, covered and sitting next to you. Ulfric Stormcloak, the face of the Stormcloak rebellion, about to be snuffed out to keep order across the lands by the Empire, or so everyone thought. Before you know it, a dragon swoops down just in time to save the player from being beheaded, and in a brief introduction, you are involved in the two major conflicts of Skyrim. The Skyrim Civil War and the dragon threat are the two driving forces of the main storyline, but that is just the tip of the iceberg. Once the player slays their first dragon, it becomes clear that they are the legendary Dragonborn, hero to Skyrim and savior of the people within the province. The main storyline will take the last Dragonborn to many different lands, including the Dwemer depths of Blackreach to the highest peaks of the Throat of the World, all to defeat a great foe known as Alduin the World Eater. There is much more to do in Skyrim than just the main quest. There are not only plenty of side quests, but also a great deal of faction quest lines. These include the Dark Brotherhood, College of Winterhold, Companions, and Thieves Guild. There are a lot of little ones as well, like the Bard's College, but there are also DLC ones, which we will talk about later in the video. For now, let's just take a look at the big ones. So there's the Dark Brotherhood. For people who have played Oblivion, they will remember them for their amazing house party quests. The Dark Brotherhood, though, is an assassination faction, with the storyline focusing on the elimination of the Emperor of Tamriel. The companions are very similar to the Fighters Guild and a lot of the other Elder Scrolls games, but with a little twist this time. The elite members of the guild are all afflicted with lycanthropy, which in other words means they are all werewolves. Then there is the Thieves Guild, which is your typical pickpocket and stealing band of travelers until you meet the Nightingale Carlia. I'll let you guys experience this one for yourselves and won't tell you what happens next. Lastly, we have the College of Winterhold questline, which is your mage faction in Skyrim. Everyone should join with the mages at Winterhold, not only for the quests, but for what you can get by working with them. Firstly, you will have access to master level spells once your skills are high enough, and secondly is the Atronach Forge that can be found underneath the college. You will be able to craft Daedric weapons and armor with the forge, and is a good way to get higher level gear for low level players. Each of the factions are unique in their own right and should be played through at least once. They can really be a good time and just adds on to why Skyrim is one of the best games ever. So we have faction, civil war, and main story quests. That has to be all there is to Skyrim, right? You'd be surprised that all those are only the tip of the iceberg. We still have a lot more side quests that are singular play experiences, like the infamous Escape from Sidna Mine story. We can see a majority of these scattered throughout the world, with plenty being fun missions to take on in the Dragonborn's downtime. There are also those that are quick little fetch quests that will change the world in little ways. These aren't as significant as the major side quest or faction ones, but they are still pretty enjoyable to do. As you can see, there are plenty of stories to immerse yourself into the world of Skyrim, but there is still so much more to do. Just traversing the lands and stumbling across a band of vampires or finding a letter to a lost treasure will make the player want to find all the secrets to the game. It really feels like every single time you play Skyrim, a new experience happens for the player, and there will always be something new to find. The world itself is very stunning and certainly immersive. There's so much to do and see in Skyrim, and when you think you've seen it all, something new just pops up out of nowhere. Then there is the combat, with hundreds of unique weapons to choose from. With battle axes, great swords, and bows. You can find so much gameplay variation in the combat alone. You can even take it a step further with dual wielding spells, one-handed weapons, and of course using a sword and shield. There are so many different ways you can customize your loadout, from the weapons you use to the armor you wear. And by using a certain weapon for a prolonged period of time, or wearing a piece of armor, you will level up that skill the more you use it. So not only is the combat itself unique and innovative for its time, you have a perk system to Skyrim which gives a lot of replayability. Each time you level up your character, you have a choice to upgrade your magicka, stamina, or health. Then after that, you get a perk point to upgrade a certain stat. Say if I use bows a lot, then I could upgrade the skill line to do 20% extra damage, or if I was a master thief, then I could get the upgrade where it is easier to pickpocket. The choice is yours when it comes to Skyrim, and Bethesda did a really good job making it so you can be whatever you want. It still takes a lot of player skill using weapons, dragon shouts, and potions in tandem with each other, but by upgrading these certain skills, it makes it a little easier to play the game. But over time, the game makes the enemies you face more challenging the higher level you get. This is good to do so that there's some level of mastery, but also keeping a similar level of challenge to it. In the game of Skyrim, we can find 3 DLCs that are different from each other and adds a lot more content to the base game. The first one is the Vampire Hunter Saga, also known as Dawnguard. This piece of content takes you to an abandoned castle east of Riften to join the fabled Dawnguard, a group of vampire hunters who have disbanded, but recently there has been a number of vampire attacks on the province of Skyrim, so under the command of Isran, they reformed. In this expansion, you are given the choice to either join the Dawnguard or the vampires themselves at Castle Volkihar. If you do decide to join the vampires, you are given a unique ability to become a vampire lord, which is similar to the transformation into a werewolf. This is a good add-on to the game, but this is just the first, with Hearthfire bringing a pretty innovative feature to the world of Skyrim. Hearthfire gives the player the ability to build their own house, which to this day players still enjoy to do. It might not be the big piece of content that something like Dawnguard gave, but it was not bad at all. It was quite enjoyable to build your own house and a little something to do in between quests. It gave the player a chance to just relax in game and was different from how most of the game was. Our final expansion brought us to an entirely new land and showed us what it meant to be Dragonborn. It just so happens that it was called Dragonborn, and the DLC took us to the Dunmer Island of Solstheim. In the expansion, we face off against the first Dragonborn, Marak. The island of Solstheim is a good blend between the snowy tundras of Skyrim and the ash-swept fields of Morrowind. It is very interesting to see a different culture being the main part of a place, seeing how for the longest time we saw the Nords as the main race. The Dark Elves got the spot in the expansion, with them having their own town of Raven Rock and the giant mushrooms of Tel Mithrin. Dragonborn was very different from the mainland of Skyrim, and there are a lot of secrets on the island of Solstheim to find, from the quests to the dungeons and the weapons themselves. All three of the DLCs brought something to Skyrim that wasn't in the game already, and they were all great additions to the game. There is a very good reason why Skyrim to this day is one of the most played games still. The modding community has been hard at work from the moment that Skyrim released, coming up with new worlds to travel to, weapons to use, and quests to complete. There are still so many people creating unique mods every day for the game, and this will not stop for a long time. I'd love to hear any new mods that you guys are playing so that I can try them out in the future, so drop a comment letting me know. Before we finish off the video, we need to take a look at Skyrim's latest update, which has been nothing short of controversial. Essentially, we saw an extension of the creations with more paid mods and a sort of combination of both the creation and mod systems to the game. It's a two-tiered system where we see paid ones but also free ones left in there as well. This has been something of a problem because just a little while ago we got the culmination of the Creation Club with the Anniversary Edition, which we will get into in just a second. Recently I re-downloaded Beyond Skyrim Bruma and have just been enjoying exploring the new environments and tackling new quests that I wouldn't normally do. So far I've barely even touched the main story or faction quests in the game, and I'm already level 50. It has really been the side content that has kept me playing, even the miscellaneous stuff that fleshes out the world just a little bit more. On top of that, I've put my toes into the water of paid mods, particularly that of the Bard's College and East Empire expansion mods. Both of these mods don't even really feel like mods. It's basically an extension of the base game, especially in the Bard's College case because there's just so much to do with it. For those unfamiliar with this mod, it really fleshes out the Bard's College in Solitude. I'm talking more quests, more NPCs, and most importantly, more chances to play as a bard. It really gives a lot in that area because you are able to travel around Skyrim and play music for people to enjoy. This is honestly why I started a new playthrough, because I wanted to try a character as a fully fleshed out bard, and it has been all of the other stuff in the game that has kept me playing even longer. I highly recommend giving this one a try, and if you guys want a review of sorts for the mod, make sure to hit that like button. Finally, we have the Anniversary Edition that gave us every single creation. Creations are essentially mods, but ones that you had to pay for. When Skyrim turned 10 years old, we got something called the Anniversary Edition that put all of these together into one pack. Let's just get this right out of the way. If you are a fan of Skyrim and looking for a reason to start a new playthrough, now is the time to do so. There's so much that came with the Anniversary Edition, and having all the new content is something of a refresher for the game. It has been a little while since we got something different and unique coming to Skyrim, and all of the creations really make it worthwhile. I will say $20 isn't too bad for the amount of content that we actually are getting with it. For the people who have never bought anything from the Creation Club, there are a total of 74 different creations to dive into. The scale differs from content to content, with Bethesda counting an alternate armor as one, but then there's also something like Saints and Seducers, which is basically its own mini DLC. We also have to take into consideration when the creation was made. Back when Creation Club first came out, the content was pretty lackluster and would take 10 minutes to run through. They started to change this over time with actual quests that take some time to complete and actually be pretty fun. You can really see the difference between the earlier stages compared to when the Creation Club was just wrapping up. Most of the new content is pretty similar to that of the later stages, with new quests like the Cause and Ghost of the Tribunal. It's not just these being interesting either. Surprisingly, farming is one of the best that I've played through because of the overall design of it. You will definitely find a lot of uniqueness with the newer ones, but even the weapon and armor creations from when Creation Club first came out, like Divine Crusader, have been a staple for my early playthroughs. It will for sure not disappoint from a content side with plenty to do and see. Even when I wasn't actively searching for all of the new content, I would find myself just roaming the world and exploring everything Skyrim has to offer. That is exactly where Anniversary Edition hits the target, when they can just envelop you into the same world that you've been playing through for over 10 years now. It didn't seem like a burden playing through all of the quests that have been there since day one either. I can say with certainty that Anniversary Edition is exactly what Skyrim needed to bring people back into the world. All of the new creations were just an add-on and not the main thing that I was focusing on once I started to actually get into the guild questline or something like the Dragonborn DLC. Once I did start playing through all of the different creations, it was still enjoyable even then. The latest batch of them is actually something that I highly recommend. The only problem that I had with them is the lack of unique dialogue. In some cases, you're able to start dialogue options with NPCs from these creations, except they have nothing important towards the story to say. There were a couple of missed opportunities with something like the Cause, which could have heavily benefited from some type of unique dialogue to expand on the lore of the Mythic Dawn. Instead, Bethesda decided to opt into using books and notes to convey the story they are trying to tell. This decision is fine, but the content just loses some of its immersion with the weird dialogue and having to read everything. The new Creation Club itself, though, is some of the best we have ever seen. The bigger quest size ones like the Cause and Ghost of the Tribunal rely heavily on nostalgia and are pretty fun to play through as well. Taking a look at Ghost of the Tribunal, I really enjoyed all of the different weapons and armor you're able to get. Especially the Ordinator set, which has always been one of the best looking armors throughout the Elder Scrolls series. There were also smaller ones like Bitter Cup, which took me by surprise. In the quest itself, you're able to pick between 3 different paths. Depending on which one you pick, that would be the version of the quest that you play through. If I hadn't decided to try it on a different character, I would have never thought there would have been so many options to the Bitter Cup quest, and that is the amount of diversity there is with all of the creations. There are still the basic ones like the contest, which takes the player on a quest to fight the Web Mother, which is from the Elder Scrolls Blades. The nod to the mobile game is interesting to see, and I'm glad that something like this exists. The quest itself was pretty standard and what you would expect, but nonetheless, it was fun to play through. I also really enjoyed some of the weapons we got to see, from Goldbrand to the Bow of Shadows and even the Headsman Cleaver. Goldbrand had a really good quest tied to it, and the weapon looks really unique compared to others. I'd likely never actually use the weapon compared to others out there, but it is for sure one that I can save for the collections. Headsman Cleaver, on the other hand, is one of the more generic quests, but I do enjoy the design of the weapon itself. Then there's the Bow of Shadows, which for the sneak archers out there, this would be the weapon for you. Being able to turn invisible and have the weapon draw speed be 20% faster is something that is really useful. I enjoyed playing around with them for a little bit, but overall, I found myself using the same weapons after a little while. As you can probably tell from the many videos on our channel, the houses in Skyrim are some of my favorite pieces of content, and I can say that the Creation Club did not disappoint with them. Even though I still enjoy a lot of the base houses like Breezehome or Honeyside, a lot of them just don't compare to the level of design we saw in the Creation Club. Each one of these new homes had a distinct feel to it that you just can't find in the base game. Think of those like Bloodshale Manor or Mirwatch, and you could just tell why they were made and what purpose they have. Not to mention, these Creation Club homes all fit a certain aspect of the game. Think of Gallows Hall, that's necromancers, right? Or take a look at Shadowfoot Sanctum, easy, that's for our thieves out there. What about Hendrheim? I think this one is for our hardy Nords out there. Take a look at all of the different houses that came in the Anniversary Edition, and it's easy to see that there is so much to choose from. On top of that, it can also fit certain playstyles really well and leans into the idea of builds for Skyrim. I'm not saying that the base homes are bad, because they're not, but a lot of them lack the creativity that we see in the Creation Club. This is probably the one area where I can say that I enjoy the content of this over what we got from Bethesda, and that is hard enough as it is. But the level of consistency that we see through these homes is amazing and something that I highly recommend. Anniversary Edition brought a lot to the game of Skyrim. The fact that I was able to explore both the new and old content simultaneously is something that I think Bethesda did really well. They brought in the creation seamlessly within the game world, and it really feels like they were there the whole time. But as you can see, Skyrim to this day is one of the biggest and most innovative games of all time. From the exploration, to the world, to the quests that reveal a story, and many other features to find. I truly believe that no game will ever achieve the heights that Skyrim has gotten to. I'd say not even in its future continuation with the Elder Scrolls 6. Skyrim as a whole has transcended its boundaries by becoming one of the most historic games of all time. It is truly a piece of art that could be played over and over again with a different experience every time. With it being over 13 years old now, it is hard to believe that any game has stood the test of time. But Skyrim was able to, and I think if you haven't given it a shot already, you need to try it. But that is all for me now though, guys. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Comment any videos you want to see in the future, and I'll see you all next time.